In a small town where everyone knows each other, Emma, a young girl passionate about hairstyling, chose a path that wasn't easy, becoming a hairdresser. Although her job doesn't bring in as much income as the office jobs her peers chose, Emma always feels happy doing something she has loved since childhood. From the very beginning, she dreamed of owning her own salon, a space where she could freely create and bring beauty to others. But behind that passion were significant challenges. Emma's family did not support her decision to pursue this career. Her father, a stern man, had hoped she would study a more stable profession, like engineering, but Emma firmly refused. To follow her passion, she had to leave home at just 19 years old, which strained her relationship with her family. However, Emma never regretted her decision. Since leaving home, Emma found a job at a large salon called Rose Beauty, where she worked not only out of passion but also in hopes of one day opening her own salon. Despite the job not being particularly well paying, Emma always devoted herself to caring for every customer. She remembered all of her customers' names, including their children's, and always tried to make them feel special. Emma's enthusiasm and affection for her work made her one of the most beloved employees at the salon. Meanwhile, Michael, a war veteran, had a life that was completely different. After leaving the military, he faced many difficulties in readjusting to civilian life. The community where he lived still remembered his heroic days in the army, but his personal life was full of tragedy. After his wife left, Michael became depressed and struggled to maintain a stable job. He lived off the help of neighbors, but always felt like a burden to everyone. One warm summer morning, when Emma stopped by a small cafe before heading to the salon, she accidentally ran into Michael. His sad gaze, unkempt face, and ragged clothes made Emma feel sorry for him. She greeted him with a bright smile, asked how he was, and offered him a cup of coffee. Although Michael declined, Emma decided to buy him a coffee anyway and walked with him to the salon. During the short walk from the cafe to the salon, they chatted about everyday things, and Emma felt that, even though it was a small gesture, she had made Michael feel a little happier. When they arrived at the salon, Emma saw Michael preparing to leave, but she didn't want to miss the opportunity to help him once more. "Michael, if you have time, I'll cut your hair for free." "Please come in and take a seat," Emma said gently. Michael, though initially reluctant, finally agreed. He entered the salon, feeling strange about the warmth Emma showed him. No one could have predicted that Emma's simple act would change both her and Michael's lives forever. After entering the salon, Michael sat in the chair, slightly embarrassed but feeling the warmth from Emma. She quickly prepared her tools and began cutting his hair. She gently wrapped a towel around Michael's neck and started her work. Although she had cut hair for many customers before, with Michael it felt different. She could see the sadness in his eyes and sensed the loneliness in every word he spoke. They didn't talk much during the haircut, only exchanging a few small conversations now and then. Emma realized that this act wasn't just about cutting hair, but a way for her to show care and share with Michael, the man who had once been a hero in the community but had been beaten down by life. She hoped that with a new hairstyle, a slight change in appearance, Michael would feel more confident, as if it were a new beginning for him. During the haircut, she asked him about his memories in the army, his old friends, and the dreams he once had. Emma's questions made Michael open up more, although he wasn't quick to share his feelings. Once the haircut was finished, Emma looked at him in the mirror and smiled. Michael looked completely different, with neatly trimmed hair and his beard groomed. Though it wasn't a huge change, Emma knew that for Michael it could be the first step toward him feeling valued again. Michael stared at himself in the mirror for a long time, then turned to Emma and said, "Thank you, Emma. You didn't just cut my hair, you gave me a little bit of hope." Just then, the salon door opened, and the owner, Caroline, walked in. Caroline, a woman in her 40s, always stood out with her stern demeanor and cold attitude. She was very pragmatic and always focused on profit. When she saw Michael sitting there, she said nothing but went straight into her office. Emma thought everything would be fine, but then she sensed Caroline's displeasure. Caroline sat down without saying a word to Emma, just staring at her silently. A feeling of unease began to rise in Emma's chest. After Emma finished cutting Michael's hair and he was about to leave, Caroline stood up and walked toward them. "Thank you, Emma, but there's something I need to clarify," Caroline spoke up. "Michael hasn't paid for this service." Emma stood frozen, not understanding why Caroline brought up this issue. "I told him I would pay for him, Caroline. He doesn't have money," Emma explained softly. But Caroline disagreed. "That's impossible. I built this business by requiring customers to pay for services. Emma, if you do this, you won't have a place here anymore." These words were like a slap to Emma's face. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Caroline, whom she had always respected, was treating her this way because of a small act of kindness. "You can't do that. This is my job," Caroline continued, her tone cold and decisive. "If Michael doesn't pay, you'll be responsible." Emma looked into Caroline's eyes, which were full of sternness and had no place for compassion. She felt confused, but then her determination began to rise. She turned to Michael and said, "Don't worry, Michael. I'll take care of this." Michael stood up, his eyes sad. "Don't do this, Emma," he said. "You don't need to do this just because of someone like me." But Emma was firm. "Don't say that, Michael. I promised, and I'll keep my word." She gently pushed Michael toward the door, but as soon as he stepped out, she turned back to face Caroline. "Caroline, I can't do this. If your company can only survive on money without any compassion, I can't stay here," Emma said, her voice firm and full of self-respect. "I'm sorry, but I have to go." And immediately, Emma left the salon, never to return. When Emma stepped out of the salon, she felt a strange emptiness. Faced with the injustice from her boss, Caroline, she wondered if she had made the right decision. But her heart had already made up its mind, and she knew she couldn't go back. For a long time, Emma had been aware that kindness could not be exchanged for money, and today she had proven just that. The whole town quickly learned about Emma's dismissal, and the story spread like wildfire. The townspeople couldn't understand why such a small act of kindness, filled with compassion, would lead to someone being fired. Everyone knew Michael, the man who had once been a hero but was now just a ghost of the past, living alone and full of sorrow. They couldn't believe that Emma, someone who always showed care for everyone, was treated like this just because of a humanitarian gesture. Jason, who had witnessed the whole situation, couldn't hold back his emotions. Feeling outraged on Emma's behalf, he began telling the story of her dismissal to everyone he met in town. At first, it was just a few people, but soon the number of people who knew the story grew. People started gathering at cafes, at the market, and on street corners to talk about the injustice Emma had suffered. The community couldn't understand Caroline's actions. She was known for caring only about profit, and now this incident only increased the disdain for the salon owner. People started sharing that they wouldn't return to Caroline's salon anymore. They decided that if someone as good as Emma could be treated like this, they couldn't support a place where kindness wasn't appreciated. After hearing the news about Emma's dismissal, Michael felt a heavy weight in his heart. He couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. A sense of guilt rose within him because he was the one Emma had helped. He knew that Emma's action wasn't just a charitable gesture, it was a genuine act of sharing with him, a man whom the whole community had forgotten. And now that very kindness had caused her to pay the price. In the following days, not only Michael but everyone in the town felt concerned about Emma's future. She no longer had a job, but her spirit was stronger than ever. Emma had no regrets about her decision. She knew she had done the right thing, and deep down, she wasn't afraid of anything. Love and kindness were things that couldn't be measured in money, and Emma believed that these values would guide her down the right path. However, the story didn't just end with the townspeople supporting Emma. Something unexpected happened. The story of Emma, of her courageous act, caught the attention of someone special, the mayor of the town. That day, when Emma was packing up her things to leave the salon, she had no idea that the news had reached the mayor. When the mayor walked into the salon with Michael, no one dared to speak. Both Caroline and Emma stood silently, looking at the mayor with a nervous anticipation that couldn't be expressed. "Emma," the mayor said, his voice calm but firm, "I've heard about you being fired for doing something good. That is unacceptable." The mayor looked at Caroline sternly, and without needing many words, Caroline knew that she could no longer defend her actions. The whole town knew about it, and the salon owner couldn't continue to justify her behavior. "Caroline," the mayor continued, "you should understand that sometimes money is not everything. We build a community not only with income, but also with kindness and sharing." Emma stood silently, looking at the mayor, and then she felt something very special. She no longer felt alone, no longer felt abandoned. Suddenly she felt as though she was being embraced by the very community she had always cared for. The mayor turned to Emma, smiling gently. "We're very proud of you, Emma," he said. These words were like a breath of fresh air to Emma's heart. She felt a sense of lightness, as if a debt had been paid without waiting. This community, though small, was full of compassion, and it made her realize that sometimes kindness doesn't need recognition, it will always be rewarded in the end. With the intervention of the mayor, Emma clearly realized that the issue was no longer just a personal matter between her and Caroline. It had become a larger community issue, where people began to recognize the value of kindness and compassion. The mayor not only stood by Emma's side, but also showed respect for the values she was defending. After that unexpected meeting, news of the mayor's intervention spread quickly throughout the town. Not only the townspeople, but even those who were not close to Emma began to view her actions with respect. Conversations at cafes, grocery stores, and even on small street corners all centered around the story of Emma, the person who paid the price for her kindness. Then a major change began to occur. Former customers of Caroline's salon, who were familiar with Emma and loved her, started coming to her. They came not just for a haircut, but also to show support and gratitude for what Emma had done. They understood that Emma's work was not just a profession, but a way for her to express love and care for the people around her. The community, with its loving nature and unity, refused to let Emma stand alone. People who had never been to Emma's salon before began to seek her out, eager to help her. "We can't let someone like Emma suffer," one former customer of Caroline's salon shared. "She did the right thing, and we must support her." The support didn't just come from familiar customers, but also from complete strangers, people who had only heard of Emma through stories in the town or even through her friends, started coming to her salon. They didn't just want to help, they wanted to learn from her about patience, tolerance, and how to love the people around them. However, for Caroline, this change was nothing like she had expected. The customers of her salon started leaving, and no one in town wanted to visit the place where Emma had once worked. Caroline's salon gradually became empty. She realized that with her wrong decisions, not only had she lost Emma, but she had also lost all the customers who once loved her. Caroline, who had always regarded money as the only measure of success, now realized that kindness and compassion had far greater value than any amount of money. She could not save her business. The customers weren't coming back, and there was no way to undo this loss. Meanwhile, Emma stood stronger than ever. She not only had the support of the community, but also experienced a significant change in her life. New customers came not just for haircuts, but for the sincerity and kindness that Emma always brought into each of her actions. She didn't just change people's appearances, she changed their souls with her loving behavior. With strong support from the community, Emma began to dream of opening her own salon. She no longer felt a fear or anxiety about the future. Instead, she felt more motivated than ever. A place where she could freely do what she loved, help others, and continue to build a beautiful community. And not long after, with the money from the mayor and support from friends in the community, Emma fulfilled her dream. On the opening day of Emma's salon, the townspeople came to support her. They brought smiles, words of encouragement, and even small gifts. It was not just the opening of a shop, but the recognition of the value of kindness and compassion that Emma had brought to the community. "We are proud of you, Emma," the mayor said at the grand opening. "You've shown us that kindness is not just an act, but a way of life." Emma stood there among her new and old friends, feeling happy. She didn't need recognition from anyone but herself. She knew she had done the right thing, and that was enough to make her stronger than ever. With the constant support of the community, Emma gradually realized she was not alone in this journey. Each day, her salon became busier. The people who had once turned their backs on Caroline's salon now came to Emma's as a reflection of the values she had brought to the community. She didn't just provide a hair service, she created a warm space where people could feel sincerity and love in every little detail. The grand opening of Emma's salon became a memorable event in the town. Not just the familiar customers, but even strangers came to show their support. Fresh flowers, thank you cards, and small gifts filled the salon. Emma felt the genuine love from each person, and that made her heart overflow with happiness. The mayor, who had supported Emma from the beginning, couldn't stop feeling proud of her. "Emma, you've proven that kindness can change people's lives," he said at the grand opening. "We are so proud to have you as part of this community." Emma smiled, full of gratitude. She hadn't just succeeded in building a salon, she had succeeded in building the trust and connection with the community. She felt she had found the right path, and that was the path of kindness. From that day on, Emma's salon became a familiar place, not only for haircuts, but also for people to share stories and exchange words of encouragement. She became a model of perseverance, kindness, and courage in standing up for what she believed in. Each passing day, she felt more certain that she had done the right thing by not giving up on her dream, by not letting challenges make her fall. Meanwhile, Caroline, who had once had everything, now faced her failure. Her salon was now empty, no longer filled with customers. The people who had once been regulars at her salon had now shifted their support to Emma, feeling that Emma's kindness and compassion deserved to be recognized and respected. Caroline couldn't salvage the situation. Despite her attempts to change her business methods, all efforts proved futile. Her business gradually declined, and eventually Caroline's salon had to close. Not only did she lose her customers, but she also lost the trust and affection of the community. One late afternoon, when Caroline's salon was finally forced to close, she stood silently looking out the window. A sense of failure and regret overwhelmed her. She realized that, despite having succeeded in building a business, she had overlooked the most important thing: kindness and compassion. Meanwhile, Emma, someone who had never thought about personal gain, received the support and affection of everyone, leaving Caroline with a valuable lesson. Nothing is more important than kindness and sincerity in life. Looking back on her journey, Emma couldn't help but feel grateful. From a young girl with a small dream of owning her own salon, she had grown and built not just a successful business, but also a close-knit community filled with love and care. Every day, Emma felt more certain that kindness, no matter how small, could change everything. She had learned that there was nothing more important than doing the right thing, even when facing challenges or difficulties. Emma's story is also a reminder to all of us about the power of kindness and sincerity. In a world filled with competition and races for success, we sometimes forget that acts of kindness not only bring personal satisfaction, but can also create profound changes within a community. Emma found success not only through her talent or efforts, but also because she held firm to her core values, compassion and kindness. And it was these values that earned her support, trust, and love from everyone around her. Emma's story will always be an inspiration to those who believe that kindness is never in vain,